Good afternoon and welcome to the Marketing Mix. I'm got a really interesting topic lined up today. It's something that seems to have hit a chord with a lot of people. So many responses saying that people are going to attend, and this is close to my heart as well. It's about ageism and generally, but ageism in marketing and how women at different points in their lives are targeted, but particularly older women. And that's close to my heart because I'm in marketing and I'm over 50. And I was just saying to Jacynth before we started that at around 45, I noticed a marked change in how I am advertised to, how I'm marketed to, but also I started to feel a little bit invisible. So, and that's not pleasant. So that's why I've asked Jacynth to come and talk to us today. She is at the forefront. I'm going to say it. She's at the forefront of leading this charge of making sure that we don't really buy into these stereotypes of the aging process, and especially in women, how women are portrayed as they move past their younger years into their midlife and their later life years. So what I'm going to do is, Jacynth, I'm going to ask you to introduce yourself and tell us a bit about your business, because I think your business is quite interesting too.
Thank you. Well, thank you so much for having me today. So I'm the founder of The Bias Cut, which is the first truly age-inclusive online fashion boutique. And we believe that essentially ageism is never in style. That's our motto, but it's also our campaign and community. And so that's our arm where we talk a lot more around the issues of ageism, age inclusivity in fashion and beyond. So we're a real purpose-driven, values-driven business. We have our fashion and our clothing side, but we're also really there to make a difference and a social difference with what we're doing.
That's amazing. And Jacynth and I met last year, funnily enough, on a boat cruise on the Thames, but we're both part of this wonderful group called F Entrepreneur that really champions female entrepreneurs. So I was really glad to have taken the chance, because I don't like boats. I do get.
I don't either. I don't like boats either.
Yeah. So I was like, right, I'm going to do it. Come on, be brave. Do it. So I'm really glad I did, and we got to meet, because I've been following you on LinkedIn since then. We connected after that, and I've been really interested in everything that you've been talking about in terms of that whole stereotyping of women as they get older. And first of all, I want to ask you, what are you seeing in terms of marketing that targets women over 40?
Yeah, I think it's kind of twofold at the moment. I mean, there's the obvious that even if it's technically targeting women over 40, it ignores them. I can tell you so many different stories, about fashion brands and other brands saying, kind of admitting, I've had it said to me, yes, our core customers over 40, but we don't want to admit that. So, there's the complete lack of it really even trying to speak to them in a direct way, or there's those preconceived ideas that the only way to appeal to someone over 40 is through someone younger. There's that idea of it's aspirational, but as I always say, there's aspirational and then there's delusional. A woman over 40 is not deluded. She is not going to suddenly be a 20-year-old tomorrow. So there's that obvious side of it where you're trying to feature younger women to market to someone over 40. Then there's those brands that are trying to market to women over 40 more directly, but many of them are falling into tropes around stereotypes or tokenistic gestures. There's so much sort of that box ticking exercise where you can see it on ads on TV all the time now. And actually, you go, oh, there's the older woman in a beauty campaign, but there's that one older woman, and she's often very stereotypically Caucasian with long grey hair, absolutely beautiful, but that doesn't represent every woman over 40 or over 50 or beyond. So there's that sort of pigeonholing that all customers over the age of 40 or women are like this, and it's just lumping everyone basically together, treating that age group as if it's a monolith. So there's lack of diversity, and there's the use of celebrities like brilliant women like Helen Mirren and Jane Fonda, again, great women, but these women are in their 70s and 80s. That's not, why should that be why are they being used to speak to somebody in their 40s or 50s? You wouldn't use somebody in their 40s or 50s to speak to someone in their 20s, for example. So why do you think somebody in their 70s or 80s can speak to somebody in their I mean, they might do, people might like them, but the point is it's a very generic blanket approach, and it's very stereotypical. The other thing that I see a lot of is a lack of consistency. So I always say that consistency is the true mark of authenticity. And what we see is, there'll be brands who maybe are trying to speak to women, an older demographic. They might feature even more than one older woman in their campaigns or in their kind of lead advertising, but then it's not consistent throughout everything else they're doing. So you won't see it on their social media, you won't see it on their websites. Speaking of fashion, you might see an older model on the catwalk, click on their website, we're back to a model in the who's an 18-year-old who's just modeling everything. So there's a complete lack of consistency throughout this messaging, and that's something that's very increasingly common at the moment. Whereas more brands are kind of wisening up to this audience, they're doing it in these sort of gestures, some half-hearted attempts, rather than really consistent and authentic.
I find that interesting, though, is that, and I've my husband and I have said this a lot, is that I was 54 in April. My husband's going to be 54 in August, and even as a couple, we find that a lot of things are targeted at younger people. For example, we like going out, but we don't like going out to eat at places where there is blaring music. I'd love to find a bar that has soft furnishing and very low music that I like, not music that the 25-year-old bartender likes. And I think it's astounding, because I've got more disposable income than an 18-year-old.
Yeah.
So why are you? Do you know what I mean? They're not really thinking about what an older demographic might want and what they can, where their spending power lies.
I think it's a very nuanced market, and it's a very diverse market, and I think that's actually where it goes. Where so many go wrong is that they assume everyone's the same over a certain age, or they, as they almost just try and ignore it because they don't it's too complicated to try to understand. So there's these sort of first attempts, and it's I do a lot of speaking with businesses and supporting businesses, and you can see it quite commonly that it is a complicated market. It is not one. I've been running the Bias Cup for nearly 8 years. This is not a market that is an easy one to crack. There's disposable income, as you say, but it's trying to you have to understand the emotional and the nuances within it, and it's a very emotional, values driven market as well. So it's trying to, whereas younger consumers, it's a lot easier to sort of just go, this is what's trendy, right, go buy it. There's a lot more consideration that happens as you get older, because actually you're more confident in your taste and what you like, where you're going, and your lifestyle, all these things, where you're a lot more individual and independent with your own preferences and your tastes. And so it's almost like, I think a lot of brands get scared, or it's like a bar, or there's these ideas that that's the only way to be cool. I think, I'm sorry, there's a bit of some noise in the background. I hope that's okay. Sorry. There still is this sort of old adage that youth is what's cool, and to be considered trendy, to be considered fashionable, modern, or whatever, contemporary, it has to be younger. And that's just it's very outdated, but it's also completely misguided, because the other misunderstanding is the idea is the only way to attract that audience means you're going to have to ignore the older consumer. Yeah. So they're concerned that there's a lot of brands who are concerned if they suddenly start to be more directly marketing in an overt way to over 40s, over 50s, older consumers, they're going to alienate the younger consumer. But that's actually not really the case at all, because if you base things on values and things that people are interested in, actually there could be somebody who likes the same music as a 25-year-old, and that place is perfect for them. But there's another place where there might be a 25-year-old who doesn't want to listen to that blaring music and wants to go to a place just like you're talking about. So, but they think that it's you have to segregate it, and it's just it's a very misunderstood way of I think there's a misunderstanding of these demographics and how we interact with each other. I'm going to say I'm a millennial, but I actually a lot of my tastes probably do fall more within what would be considered more like Gen Z or whatever. So not Gen Z, sorry, Gen X.
Gen X.
Gen X. So but if you suddenly, I always say to brands as well, if you sort of say we're going to target this age group, a good example is menopause. If you say we're for women in their 50s, well, actually, there's a lot of women who experience menopause earlier. If you just say you're a brand that's for women in their 50s, you're alienating now a complete part of your market. So you need, again, look at values, look at lifestyle, look at taste. Those are the things we need to be focusing a lot more on through marketing. And yes, you're more likely potentially to end up marketing towards a particular age group because life experiences, cultural references, things like that are more similar, but you just don't end up alienating other people.
I've got a kindred spirit here.
There you go. Yeah, 29. Love all of this stuff. I'm the same. I'm like that. So,
So listen, you won an award yesterday.
Yes,
for a very important campaign that you've been doing. So tell us a little bit more about the award and the campaign.
Yes, so we were very excited. We won Best Social Media Campaign at the Silver Marketing Association Awards. So for brands that successfully market to people over 50. It was really exciting to win it, and it was particularly rewarding because we're a small I started the business on my own with my savings straight out of university. We're a small team of women, an age diverse group of women, and it was really lovely to see our work and what we're doing being recognized, because our Ageism Never Star campaign, as I mentioned at the beginning, I really set it up originally. So I started the Bias Cut, the shopping platform, in March 2016, and then I set up Ageism is Never in Style a couple of months later, because I wanted to create this sort of safe space and this community space that allowed women and men on all ages to come together and feel they could talk about their experiences with ageism, but also be empowered to, really embrace who they are. At the time, I mean, ageism now is a topical conversation. You can't go nearly a day without it being somewhere in the press. But when I started the business, no one wanted to talk about it. And as I say, people didn't even want to be associated with age or talk about women over 40, 50, whatever. So I really wanted to create this started space that allowed people to feel, as I say, safe to talk about these issues. And so we started that on Facebook. And then as time's gone on, we've also moved to being on Instagram. And we've got, badges. I've got one right now. I'm wrong side. Badge. Mirror. I was seeing myself on the reflection, and I'm like, oh, that's nice, isn't it? That's wrong reflection. And we've done campaigns, social media campaigns within it. And the one that we've been running this year has been called I Look My Age. And it's been off the back of a really exciting project we've doing. So through Ageism is Never in Style, we actually also partner with companies, organizations, charities, research establishments to really further the conversation, to consult, to expand, and to sort of champion aging and to end ageism. And we've worked with the Charity Centre for Aging Better to create a series of editorial stock images of women over 50.
And they're great.
Thank you. Yeah, we're really proud of it. And it's pilots. We know it, this was very small, charity funded. So we're hoping that this is going to become bigger, because the Centre for Aging Better already have an image library of to improve representation of people over 50, but they came to us specifically to introduce a sort of more fashiony editorial style. So we had women, we had over 250 applicants. Women, it was amazing. We just put a public call out, who would like to take part. Women took part. Because it was small, we could only feature 6 women at the beginning, but we're really hoping it's going to be able to grow. And we purposely made sure not to let this being a top tick boxing exercise. So we did a survey which had nearly 600 respondents, and there's so many things that came up within the survey that we would love to be able to delve further into, but we didn't want it to be right. There's the 50-year-old, there's the 60-year-old, there's the 70-year-old, there's the So we really honed in at the beginning on 50s and 60s, just at the beginning. And then we've launched off the back of that the I Look My Age campaign on social media, which I think at the moment the number is about 2.6 million views, I think we're at now, which is amazing. And it's so wonderful. So it's so simple. Essentially all it is people say, I'm so and so, this is my name, and I'm this is my age, and I look my age. And it's about disrupting those warped stereotypes around the fact that you have to look this age, or this is you look to be that age. So even when someone says to you, look good for your age, it's like, no, I just look my age.
I get that all the time.
And it might be, of course, it's meant as a compliment, but actually it's the subtext of that is, but you shouldn't look that good at that age, because we're so used to this perception and of what age looks like. So what the whole point of the campaign is to just disrupt these warped, very narrow-minded ideas of what age, and to celebrate the beauty and diversity and individuality of age. And it's just it's been amazing, and to see people take part in different languages as well. We've had people, as far as Brazil to Israel to India take part. It's been amazing, and it's been going a couple of weeks now. It's still going, and just seeing, and of course you still get people going, but you don't look your age. Like, no, but that's exactly the point. You do. And we've had people of all ages take part, which is also really important. So we've had people, equally in their 30s, who maybe, like, we had a lovely lady the other day took part because she was fed up with people saying her she looked old because she had grey hair, even though she turned grey at a young age. And we had people who've also said, I felt terrified to admit my age on social media, and finally I'm doing it. And so it's things like that. It's been wonderful.
That's great. I mean, I've never been afraid of saying what my age is, because I can't change it. I can say, I can shy away from it, but I can't change what my age is. And let's face it, we're all going to get older. That's the way life goes. You're born and you get older. And it's up to you to decide how you look. And what you're going to do to help you in yourself feel better about that aging process. And I have to say, that I'm finding aches and pains where I never used to have aches and pains. But it's a fact of life that you can't change what your age is. So why have we got to this about, and it's particularly for women, because when men get older, they get more distinguished, and they get more this, and they get more, and women just get older. And it's just a real kind of split between what we accept men will look like as they get older and what we want women to look like. And I feel like there's a real pressure for us to keep looking as young as we possibly can. And the places where I see that the most is things like advertising, marketing, and in the film and TV industry, where women are under such pressure, and those roles are going to younger and younger women.
And I think this is one of the things that I find quite interesting is that, people, and when I say people, I mean women as much as men, and sometimes sadly women more so, can be even more critical of celebrities who have, for example, chosen to have some work done. And one thing about Asian cinema stars, we do not shy away from a controversial conversation. And this is the point, we need to have these conversations. And whenever we post something, like a Jennifer Aniston, when she did the Allure cover back in, I think it was November, it got such a split response. And then most recently, of course, there was the Martha Stewart cover that on Sports Illustrated. And of course, there's a whole other issue to do with the problems with Sports Illustrated, obviously. But what I think we need to remember is we need to stop attacking each other for the choices that maybe particularly like celebrities have made, because potentially they're not actually as much of a choice as it seems. These are people who are in an industry who they felt pressured to have work done, and we need to be looking beyond the immediate criticism of people and their choices to understand why they made that choice, so that we can then look at those issues and what were the societal issues, what's been going on that caused this system where women feel the pressure to have work done. Because we always say it's all about choice, and ultimately if you choose to have work done, or as an example, or if you choose to dye, I mean, another one which comes up a lot is it's now bad to dye your hair. It means you're actually denying your age if you dye your hair. No, it's a choice. It's a personal choice, but it's all about not judging each other and understanding that if it wasn't a choice, why wasn't a choice? And let's not have a go at the person for then who did it. Let's look at what caused it.
Yeah.
I mean, one of the things that I always remember is, a makeup artist friend said to me a little while ago that her and some of her colleagues felt from the age of 40, they started to have to get Botox because they couldn't get jobs to as makeup artists on big photo shoots anymore, because the perception was that they wouldn't have they weren't contemporary, they weren't up to date with their references, and they wouldn't be able to do cool modern makeup. So they felt they had to get Botox.
Wow.
So let's not have a go then at that woman for having the Botox.
Yeah.
Let's look at why did she have to do it? And that's really, for me, what ending ageism is all about. And it's all about what we say is ending ageism is about having the freedom of choice to age however we want, without other judgment or pressures, whether that is or isn't getting work done, whether that is or isn't having your hair dyed. It's your personal choice, and ensuring that those choices weren't made because other people basically made you feel it, or even your internalized pressures made you feel you had to do it.
Amazing. Got a question. So what's the key takeout for those planning to communicate with women over 50?
I think the number one thing I would always say is integrate and embed yourself in the communities, whether it's online, whether it's locally. It's about these communications, and this word community, or having a community driven business, it's such a buzz thing, isn't it? It's something that we hear, and I hear so many businesses and pitches going, I'm going to be a community led business, and it is not as simple. It sounds simple, but it's not simple.
No.
It is, you have to invest time, you have to invest energy and care and passion and compassion into your community if you're going to grow one. And the main thing is to listen, and to continuously listen, and to constantly have a dialogue. Where I think we particularly did well with, say, the I Look My Age campaign was, this conversation's not new. It's not that we're not the first people who ever said, let's say I look my age, because we've been we've been saying it for a few years now, but so have other people been saying it for as many years, if not maybe more. But we listened to our community to know when the time was right, that they felt confident and safe to be able to now say those things. And so I think the key takeaway with communicating with women over any ages, but particularly with women over 50s, this is a smart, intelligent, savvy customer group. Listen to them, speak to them, and actually continue talking to them. Don't just say, okay, I've heard something. Sorry if there's a buzz in the background. I hope that's okay. Typical working from home with people who are doing this. Keep talking, learning, and also don't make assumptions. I think the other thing that I see happens quite often is, particularly actually from those who maybe are in that age group sometimes, if they're starting a business they assume that they're the customer, so they know exactly that customer. And they might do, but they might also not know as much. There's, as I said earlier, there's so much diversity within this demographic, whether you are in it or not. I think, for me, being younger, I spent, and I continue to spend, and I found the communities online so welcoming to me to be able to listen to them. But I think of all age, whether you are that age or whether you're whatever age you are, it's this constant conversation to create a space that really makes people feel they can be honest and open with you.
And I think, that comes back to some of the principles of marketing, really, is to understand your audience, and if those communities are open to you. Because for me as well, my ideal client is a woman between the ages of 45 and 55, and my bugbear is never having the kind of images, which now is changing, but I can't tell you the amount of times I've complained to Canva that there are no images of women, older women, and if I look for an older Indian woman, I invariably get an old woman in a sari, and I'm like, I mean, with the best will in the world, I only wear saris at weddings, so that's just it. The whole kind of perception of what older women look like just needs a complete rethink in terms of not just even age, but like our jobs, our lifestyle, our dress, our everything. It just needs a complete rethink.
Absolutely. And I think, there's a lot of conversation at the moment about AI, obviously, and how that will AI be actually a good thing for this creating more images and more diversity? And I actually don't know whether I fully agree, because the problem is AI is still based on an algorithm that's been created that will still be probably created by someone who's got stereotypical biases. So actually you can't create, the computer's not going to be able to create images it doesn't know what it should be creating. I mean, I did a really quick test the other day on one of the websites we can do it, and I typed in, I think, woman over 50 fashion. I mean, honestly, the picture that came up were like aliens. They had taken almost younger women and then drawn wrinkles on her and sort of semi-dyed her. It was horrific, but that's because that was what the algorithm had obviously said, take this and then add in some wrinkles in this. And it's, so I think actually, there's worries in the creative community about AI taking away jobs, but actually, if anything, this is an opportunity now to really have to go, no, look, this is where creatives really shine, because we can break down the stereotypes, we can push messages, we can push ideas, and we can get rid of these tokenistic, inauthentic messages that say an AI or a computer is not going to be able to do.
Yeah, and I think for me as well, that fear of AI is great for. I think it's a great tool for being more efficient and that kind of stuff. But in terms of doing things like finding images and that kind of stuff, it is that bias is generally speaking, and I'm going to be ageist here, but generally speaking, the people who are training these things are younger.
They are.
And those biases are going to creep in.
Which is why I think, sorry, is that really loud in the background?
No.
Oh, it's not. Okay, good. I can just hear this. I think somebody's cutting down a tree or something. So I was going to close my window. I think this is where I comes back to what I say to everything. It's all about education. And we need to be educating people at all ages about these issues. And I think, with ageism is so often left out of the DE&I sector and the conversation. It's very rarely included. It's actually weird to think about that. Why is age is not included in part of diversity and inclusion, but it is often forgotten about. And so people, there's the intentional being ageist, and then there's the unintentional, because you're just not informed and you're just not educated on these things. And that's why I do a lot personally. I do a lot of schools and at university level as well, and with educating around the issues of ageism, because actually we need to be talking about it at every stage of life, and it's much importance of other areas of diversity and inclusion. It needs to be part of the conversation. And as you say, but I think, and that's the problem, is that when you do have younger people, I often say about with fashion, with the fashion, most of the coming out of fashion school, they have been, most of them are young people who will probably, their only reference points are things that they know and their own friends. If they're not being educated at school about the importance of diversity and designing for different people and different bodies and different abilities and all these different things, then why will they design clothes that suddenly are now going to be more inclusive? They wouldn't. So we've got to be educating at every level. And that's why I think that's why it's very important for us that Ageism Never Style as well is also open to all ages. We're very much about being age inclusive, and the device is all about age inclusivity, because we want to welcome all ages into the conversation.
Cool. Got another question for you. So what kind of offline channels work well for demographics who don't necessarily always want to be in the digital world?
So, I mean, actually, I one of the things that I do think still has a lot of gravitas and pull is traditional PR and that sort of traditional marketing through, getting your story out there, yes, okay, it could be online or you can be in print. I mean, a lot of magazines, I know print is dead, but actually there's an awful lot now to show that there's value to being in a magazine, or like, the Sunday Times, things like that. There's magazines, people actually spend more time reading them than maybe online. Similarly, at the conference I was at yesterday, some amazing stats were coming out about the value of actually print and leaflets and things like that, because actually now that your email is so clogged up with so much more, everyone's getting emails, there's a lot less space on the doormat of for flyers or little brochures or booklets, little catalogs. So actually people spend more time now looking at them and considering them and looking at these more printed materials, because actually it's almost a luxury it's become to have a printed material. I mean, again, I don't know, I'm old school. I personally much prefer reading a magazine in person than I do ever looking at online. And I think we are moving back. It's those balance. You've got to have each touch point. You can't not have you can't need social media, you can't not have digital, but you can also have these other things. And I say the print PR is also very important for word of mouth, and we can't get away from the value of word of mouth, again, particularly as as the consumer gets a bit older and they're more savvy, they're more considered. They're going to they're going to be referred by their friends, by reviews, by testimonials from an expert. Things like that are really important still. So I think we've got to, there's this talk about you can create an entire brand on social media. Yeah, there can be. You could create like a fast fashion, quick brand on social media for 18-year-olds potentially, make it a massive thing. But you do need to have these other touch points, in particular, and as much offline and online. And I always say the same as well about, this whole like online shopping has killed the high street. I actually very much believe that they need to coexist. And, we've done pop-ups, we've done events, because it's important to have those face-to-face contacts with people, as much as it is just to be an online store. Online gives accessibility, it gives more options in a lot of other ways, but you need that personal touch. And now that also, particularly since COVID, a lot of businesses are struggling, and now with the cost of living, it's been a tough few years.
It has been,
tough. And, people are turning more and more to these values, purpose-driven businesses. And it's these touch points of personal connection that actually really really amplify that message a lot more.
And to your point about leaflets and flyers, I can't even think the last time we've had any mail. I can't think when it was, but if something comes through the door, I generally look at it before, and it's in ones and twos now. It's not like the masses that used to be on the doormat before.
It's more like the average is you keep it for 7 days. So actually, again, that's marketing in someone's house for 7 days, that it's just on their, on their coffee table. And there is a nice thing, that whether it's on the weekend, getting a cup of coffee, sitting down, flicking through, having a little, it's things like that. I think it was a very interesting talk that I went to yesterday about these sort of different mediums of marketing. And I think ultimately it comes down to, you've got to have all these different options. You have to have all these different touch points.
So you've given us lots of ideas and tips of what to do in our marketing. Have you got any last thoughts in terms of how to make people my age feel more included in marketing output?
Honestly, my answer to it is always communicate and educate, and really listen and understand. And I think one of the words I often say is learn to speak your customer's language. And so that's when you speak the same language. And when I say language, I'm not saying English versus Spanish. I mean sort of terminology, using phrases, references that your customer connects with, because that makes them feel understood and it makes them feel seen. So that's really important. And then to keep educating yourself, to keep communicating with them, to keep listening to them. There's a back and forth. Communicating also means pushing back and forth, saying, have you thought maybe we should do this? When I started the business, I did a big survey of women over 40. About 50% of women said to me they didn't want to see models over 40. And I know. And it really threw me, because I thought, have I got this wrong? Have I completely misunderstood what I think what we need, which is to have what I thought women wanted was to see themselves represented. And then what I realized after doing further conversations was actually some of these women were applying their preconceived bias of what it would look like to see a woman over 40 being fashionable. And so they thought it was going to be these stereotypes. So once I was like, they couldn't visualize what I had envisaged for the business. So again, I did push back. I challenged, went ahead, and actually several of them contacted me after and went, "Oh wow, I never expected to be able to see this. I love it." So yeah, it's a conversation. It's a back and forth conversation. But that's really what I'd say is really the most important thing. And I think what you see compared to where small brands I think can thrive a lot more versus some of the bigger ones is a lot of them, the bigger ones, sometimes they just sort of check in with their customers very periodically. Whereas if you can check in with your customers constantly and listen, you grow and develop with them, and you learn to speak their language, and they speak, it's a back and forth.
People, I've put the link to Jacynth's website in the comments, but go and check it out because the images on there are incredible. I had a quick look before we started. Of course, I've been to her website before because I go back and forth, but it's nice to see women that represent me and how I feel at this stage of my life. So go and have a look at that. And also do get involved in the I Look My Age campaign. I posted on LinkedIn. I posted about me and the challenges I've had. And I always get the, whenever anyone finds out my age, I always get the, "Oh my God, you don't know." Yeah. Always, every time.
Is quite a lot of women have gone viral as a result of the campaign. So, what's wonderful is seeing how it's supporting their own businesses or brands. We've had several women who've said, "I've never had a viral video before." And so that's what's been really exciting is it's about we're supporting each other with this movement. It's not just, it's not just one-sided. This is really us together saying, no, look, we are reclaiming visibility. We are reclaiming what it means to get, older, what aging looks like, and we're not gonna budge.
Definitely do it. So it's my name is I am your age.
Yeah, and then
I look my
age, and then just make sure to tag us because do you know Instagram's the algorithm in particular Instagram's being very annoying at the moment because we keep getting it's not showing us as it goes up, so we're posting as many as we can, but make sure you tag us and then we can make sure we can share it.
Fabulous. Listen, we're coming to the end of our time. I've run over because this has been so interesting.
Unfortunately, that seems to be a common trait with me. I talk too much. That's my problem.
No. It's been great. It's been great listening and hearing your thoughts. So if you're watching and you want to hear about more things like this, please do join my newsletter. It's called The Marketing Morsel. It comes out every week on a Tuesday. It's a bit of a club for anyone who runs their own business and has to do their own marketing and doesn't really know how to get started or what they should do that's best for them. And there are a whole other bunch of things that you get as being part of that. And do click on that link and join. In 2 weeks' time, I'm going to be back with Lisa Pickles, who is going to talk about how you can become your own sales director. So do join me then. Hi, Hells. I knew she would be watching. Hells is a really good friend of my husband's. So thank you. Thank you for joining us. And, saying that you look your age.
Amazing.
I had a really nice one from Ella. Where is it? There we go. Ella. She's 58, greying hair, never felt happier. And I do think that it is whatever you're comfortable with as you're getting older. And none of it should be out of bounds, really. So thank you again for joining us.
For having me.
If you want to catch up back on this, it's available in all the places that is on. So Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, it's available there for you to go back on. But do connect with Jacynth and do get involved in the I Look My Age campaign. And I will be back in 2 weeks' time. I'll see you then.
Thanks so much.